Captain Jack Huxley had seen some weird stuff in his 15 years of deep space exploration. Black holes that shouldn't exist. Quantum anomalies that made physicists weep. That one time on Europa when Lieutenant Rodriguez swore he saw something moving under the ice. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for the sight currently filling the viewport of the UES Audacity. So he said, drumming his fingers on the command console, "Anyone want to be the first to admit we're looking at an alien spaceship? Or should we keep pretending it's an unusually geometric comet?" The bridge fell silent as the massive vessel, sleek, silvery, and distinctly non-human in design, hovered silently against the backdrop of Jupiter's swirling clouds. "Sir," Communications Officer Maya Patel's voice cracked slightly. "They're broadcasting something on all frequencies." "Well, don't keep us in suspense, Officer Patel. Let's hear what our new neighbors have to say." The sound that filled the bridge wasn't quite music and wasn't quite language, a melodic series of chirps, clicks, and what sounded suspiciously like underwater gurgling. "Translation matrix is working on it," Patel said, fingers flying across her console. "Give it a minute, too. Greetings, humans of Earth. We come in peace." The booming voice caused several crew members to jump. Huxley raised an eyebrow. "Well, that's refreshingly straightforward. Though I had hoped first contact might be a bit more subtle. Apologies for volume calibration issues. Is this better?" The voice adjusted to a more reasonable level. "Much better, thank you," Huxley replied, deciding that talking to the ceiling was as good a direction as any. "This is Captain Jack Huxley of the United Earth ship Audacity. To whom do I have the pleasure of speaking?" "I am Ambassador Krell Vor of the Pax Galactis, a peaceful coalition of 17 sentient species. We have been observing your solar system for some time and have deemed your species ready for first contact." Huxley exchanged glances with his XO, Commander Diana Way, who mouthed 17. With wide eyes. "Well, Ambassador Krell Vor, we're certainly honored. Though I hope you don't mind me asking why you've been lurking around Jupiter instead of heading straight for Earth." A pause. "Security protocols. We were assessing your defensive capabilities." Huxley couldn't help but smirk. "And what did you find?" Another pause, longer this time. "Unexpectedly extensive. Your orbital platforms are quite numerous." "You mean our defense grid?" Huxley chuckled. "Yeah, we like to be prepared. Never know when someone might drop by unannounced." The Audacity's tactical officer, Lieutenant Marcus Jones, was barely suppressing a grin. Earth's defense network was the pride of the solar system, a combination of kinetic energy and antimatter weapons that could theoretically repel an invasion fleet 10 times the size of the lone vessel before them. "Indeed," Krell Vor replied, sounding slightly less confident. "Captain Huxley, the Pax Galactis would like to formally invite representatives of Earth to diplomatic talks. We bring technological gifts that will benefit your species greatly." "Gifts, huh?" Huxley leaned back in his chair. "Well, who am I to turn down free stuff from space? Let me call home and see if we can roll out the red carpet for you." As the communication ended, Way leaned over. "Sir, protocol states we should." "I know what protocol states, Commander," Huxley interrupted with a grin. "But I'm more interested in what they're not saying. Why do peaceful aliens need to assess our defenses? And what kind of gifts do they think will impress a species that's already colonized half the solar system? You think they're hostile?" "No," Huxley said, watching the alien ship through the viewport. "I think they're desperate. And desperate folks rarely make house calls just to be neighborly." The United Nations headquarters in New York had seen its fair share of historic gatherings, but none quite like this. World leaders, military brass, and scientific luminaries all crammed into the General Assembly Hall, waiting for their first official meeting with representatives of the Pax Galactis. Dr. Eleanor Ellie Ramsey fidgeted with her access badge, uncomfortable in the formal attire Secretary General Okafor had insisted all human delegates wear. As Earth's foremost expert in xenotechnology, a field that had been largely theoretical until about 72 hours ago, she'd been summoned from her lab in Geneva, with barely enough time to shower. "Stop fidgeting," muttered Admiral Victor Ortega beside her. The weathered commander of Earth's combined space forces looked almost as uncomfortable in his dress uniform. "You're making me nervous." "I'm not fidgeting because I'm nervous," Ellie whispered back. "I'm fidgeting because this suit itches and I haven't slept in 36 hours. Any further complaints were silenced as the massive doors swung open. Ambassador Krelvor led a delegation of 5 aliens into the hall, each one a different species. The ambassador himself resembled a tall, slender humanoid with iridescent blue skin and 4 arms. Behind him came beings that looked variously like an upright praying mantis, something resembling a furry octopus, a crystalline entity that seemed to float rather than walk, and a being so wrapped in environmental gear that its true form was impossible to determine. A collective gasp swept through the assembly, followed by absolute silence. "Greetings, leaders of Earth." Krelvor's voice was melodious and carried easily through the hall. "We come before you in friendship, and with great hope for our mutual future." Secretary General Okafor stepped forward. "Ambassador, on behalf of humanity, welcome to Earth. We are honored by your presence and eager to learn about the galaxy beyond our humble solar system." Ellie couldn't help but roll her eyes at the false modesty. Earth's humble solar system now boasted colonies on Mars, Venus, and several moons of Jupiter and Saturn, plus mining operations throughout the asteroid belt. The diplomatic pleasantries continued for several mind-numbing minutes before Krelvor finally got to the point. "As a token of our goodwill, the Pax Galactis wishes to present humanity with a gift of technology." He gestured, and the crystalline entity floated forward, projecting a hologram of what appeared to be a shield generator. "This defensive technology has protected our worlds for centuries. It can create an energy barrier capable of withstanding most conventional weapons." Ellie studied the hologram, her initial excitement quickly fading. The quantum configuration was elegant but primitive. The power requirements alone would make it impractical for Earth's existing infrastructure, and the protection it offered was barely better than what humanity had developed decades ago. She caught Admiral Ortega's eye and gave a subtle head shake. His expression remained diplomatically neutral, but she knew he'd understood. "Ambassador," Ortega said smoothly, stepping forward, "this is a most generous offer. We would be honored to study this technology and learn from your experiences." What he didn't say, what none of the human delegates said, was that they'd already developed something far more advanced. Earth's newest defensive systems utilized phase shift technology that didn't just block attacks but redirected them into pocket dimensions. As the meeting progressed, Ellie noticed something odd about the aliens' behavior. They seemed almost disappointed by the calm, measured human response, as if they'd expected either primitive awe or fearful rejection. What exactly were these aliens hoping to find on Earth? And why did their revolutionary gift feel so much like a test? "You can't be serious." Krelvor stared at the holographic display, 4 arms hanging limply at his sides. The private meeting room deep beneath the UN headquarters had been cleared of all but essential personnel. Dr. Ramsey stood beside a projection of Earth's actual defensive capabilities, presenting data that was making the alien delegation increasingly uncomfortable. "I assure you, Ambassador, these systems are already deployed throughout our solar system," Ellie said, unable to keep a hint of pride from her voice. "The quantum displacement shield doesn't just block incoming attacks, it shifts them into a parallel dimensional pocket." "But the energy requirements alone," sputtered the mantis-like alien, identified as Science Minister Vex Tick, "were solved when we cracked zero-point energy extraction in 2137, Ellie finished. "We've been running our entire defense grid on vacuum energy for almost 2 decades. Admiral Ortega cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should explain something about human history, Ambassador. Our species has spent most of its existence fighting itself. Warfare has been our most consistent driver of technological advancement." Captain Huxley, who had been quietly observing from the corner, stepped forward. "What the Admiral is too diplomatic to say is that we've gotten really good at building things that go boom. When we finally united as a planet, we channeled all that creative, destructive energy into defensive systems instead." The aliens exchanged glances that even cross-species were clearly alarmed. From the back of the alien delegation, a smaller blue figure introduced earlier as Tezik. A junior cultural analyst watched the humans with what appeared to be fascination rather than fear. "But your databases, your public technological archives," Krelvor began. "Are carefully curated," Secretary General Okafor said smoothly. "Certain technologies are restricted for security reasons. Surely the Pax Galactis understands the necessity of such precautions?" The mood in the room had shifted dramatically. What had begun as the Pax Galactis magnanimously offering technological gifts to a less advanced species had transformed into something else entirely. The aliens were now regarding the humans with new eyes, and what those eyes held looked increasingly like concern. "I believe," Krelvor said carefully, "that we may have misunderstood certain aspects of human civilization." "We get that a lot," Huxley quipped. As the meeting adjourned, Ellie noticed the junior analyst, Tezik, lingering near the data terminals, studying the human defense schematics with what appeared to be admiration rather than concern. When their eyes met, the alien quickly looked away, but not before Ellie caught something in that gaze, something that made her wonder if the Pax Galactis had been entirely forthcoming about their reasons for contacting Earth. The storage closet was hardly an ideal location for a clandestine meeting, but as Tezik had nervously explained, it was one of the few places not monitored by Pax Galactis security protocols. "Let me get this straight," Captain Huxley said, leaning against a shelf of cleaning supplies. "You're saying the Pax Galactis isn't just a friendly coalition of spacefaring buddies?" Tezik's blue skin pulsed with anxious patterns. "Again, the coalition is real, Captain. The peaceful part is aspirational. We do not wage war, but that is because we cannot." Dr. Ramsey, perched on an upturned bucket, frowned. "Cannot as in morally opposed, or cannot as in really bad at it?" "Both," Tezik admitted. "Most species in the Pax evolved without predators. Our homeworlds had stable climates, abundant resources, minimal competition. We developed technology without developing weapons." "Sounds nice," Huxley remarked. It was. Tezik's skin darkened to a deep navy. "Until the harvesters found us." The term hung in the air like a toxic cloud. "I'm guessing they're not called that because they help with the space crops," Huxley said. "They are a predatory species from the galactic core. They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They simply take resources, technology, entire worlds. We have lost 3 member species of the Pax already." Ellie leaned forward. "And your shields can't stop them?" "Nothing we have can stop them," Tezik confirmed. "When our scout ships detected your solar system and observed your species' unusual fixation on defensive and offensive technologies." "You thought you'd found your champions," Huxley finished. "You wanted to see if we were advanced enough to fight your battles for you." Tezik's skin flushed with embarrassment. The Pax Council would phrase it as forming a mutually beneficial alliance, but yes, we cannot fight the harvesters. But perhaps humans can. "Why tell us this in secret?" Ellie asked. "Why not have Ambassador Krelvor explain the situation?" "Because," Tezik said, lowering his voice even further, "I am violating protocol. The official plan was to assess your capabilities, then gradually introduce the concept of the harvesters over several diplomatic exchanges, this allowing you to offer assistance naturally." "Manipulating us, you mean?" Huxley said flatly. "Yes," Tezik admitted. "But I believe that dishonesty is a tactical error." And he hesitated. "I do not have time for diplomatic games. The harvesters are already here." Both humans stiffened. "Define here," Huxley demanded. "A scout ship entered your solar system 6 hours ago. It is currently hiding in the rings of Saturn gathering data. Where one scout goes, the harvester fleet follows." Huxley and Ellie exchanged alarmed glances. "This meeting is officially over," Huxley said, already reaching for his communicator. "Dr. Ramsey, I believe it's time to show our new friends what happens when someone threatens our solar system." As they hurried from the closet, alarms began blaring throughout the complex. Admiral Ortega's voice came over the facility-wide comm system. "Attention all personnel. This is not a drill. We have detected unauthorized entry into solar space. Defense Condition Alpha is now in effect. All military personnel report to your stations immediately. Too late, Tezik whispered, his skin now almost black with fear. They're coming. You want to use Jupiter as bait? Ambassador Krelvor's voice rose in disbelief. The Emergency War Council had been hastily assembled in the UN Subterranean Command Center. Holographic displays showed the solar system, with a blinking red dot representing the Harvester scout ship now moving from Saturn toward Jupiter. Not Jupiter itself, Captain Huxley clarified, pointing to the gas giant's orbit. Just the space around it. The Galilean defense platform has our most advanced weapons systems. If we can lure the Harvesters there. You're assuming they'll take the bait, Admiral Ortega interjected. These creatures have destroyed 3 advanced civilizations. They won't fall for obvious traps. Dr. Ramsey stepped forward, manipulating the holographic display. That's why we're not making it obvious. We're going to make it look like we're evacuating Europa in a panic, leaving behind critical infrastructure. Meanwhile, she tapped a command, and dozens of tiny blue dots appeared throughout Jupiter's orbital system. Quantum mines? Asked Tezik, who had been formally integrated into the planning team after his revelations. But they'll detect the energy signatures. Not these, Ellie said with professional pride. These beauties are running on passive systems until triggered, completely undetectable until they're activated. And when they do activate, she made a gesture like a chef's kiss. The Pax delegates looked bewildered by the human enthusiasm for what was essentially a deadly crisis. Their confusion only grew as the planning session continued, with humans proposing increasingly elaborate defensive strategies, contingency plans, and counterattacks. I don't understand, said the mantis-like science minister Vex Tick. You seem almost eager for this confrontation. Not eager, corrected Admiral Ortega. Prepared. There's a difference. Besides, Huxley added with a grim smile, if these Harvesters are as bad as you say, better to fight them here, on our terms, than wait for them to bring the fight to Earth. The planning continued for hours, with Dr. Ramsey coordinating the deployment of specialized weapon systems throughout the solar system. Occasionally she would catch Tezik watching her work with what could only be described as awe. You've never seen anything like this before, have you? She asked during a brief break. Never, the alien admitted. In the Pax, our response to threats is evacuation and concealment. The concept of standing and fighting is foreign. Well, Ellie said, returning to her console, get used to it. Because if there's one thing humans excel at, it's finding creative ways to defend what's ours. As the battle plans were finalized, the scout ship suddenly accelerated, heading directly toward Earth. And behind it, emerging from the darkness beyond Saturn, came the main Harvester fleet, 12 massive ships of alien design, bristling with unknown technology. They're early, Huxley remarked, eerily calm. Looks like we get to test our plans sooner than expected. The Pax delegates looked terrified. The humans looked determined. The battle for the solar system was about to begin. The Harvester fleet moved through space like a school of predatory fish, their obsidian hulls absorbing rather than reflecting light. From the command center deep beneath New York, human and Pax representatives watched the holographic display as the alien armada approached Jupiter. They're taking the bait, Huxley whispered, almost reverently. Look at them adjusting course. Sure enough, the fleet was moving toward Europa, where the evacuation had supposedly left valuable technology undefended. Quantum mine field is hot but passive, reported a technician. They're 30 seconds from optimal detonation range. Ambassador Krelvor was practically vibrating with tension. Your weapons can destroy them, yes? Admiral Ortega's face remained grim. We're about to find out. On the display, the lead Harvester ship crossed an invisible threshold. Admiral Ortega gave a short nod, and Dr. Ramsey pressed her palm against a biometric scanner. Galilean Defense Network activated, she said calmly. Quantum mines deploying now. The space around Jupiter lit up like a supernova as hundreds of quantum mines detonated simultaneously. The mines didn't just explode, they tore holes in the fabric of space-time itself, creating miniature, short-lived black holes that ripped apart 3 of the harvester ships before they could react. Direct hits, someone shouted, and a cheer went up from the human personnel. The remaining harvesters regrouped with surprising speed, changing formation and accelerating away from the trap only to fly directly into the path of the Galilean defense platform's main weapon. Phase cannon firing, Ellie announced. A beam of concentrated energy, invisible in the vacuum of space but represented as a bright blue line on the holographic display, lanced out from Jupiter's moon Ganymede. When it struck the lead harvester ship, the alien vessel didn't explode, it simply ceased to exist, that its matter converted to energy in a flash so bright that the display momentarily whited out. Holy, Tezik breathed, his blue skin paling to almost white. The remaining harvesters scattered, clearly attempting to regroup, but Earth's defense systems gave them no quarter. Automated weapons platforms throughout the Jovian system activated, firing a coordinated barrage that caught another 2 harvester ships. One exploded conventionally, the other spun off into Jupiter's gravity well, where the gas giant's immense pressure would soon crush it beyond recognition. "They're retreating," Admiral Ortega announced, pointing to the display where the remaining harvesters were accelerating toward the outer solar system. "All units hold fire unless directly engaged. Let them run." A stunned silence fell over the command center. "That's it?" Krelvor finally asked, disbelief evident in his voice. "Centuries of harvester terror ended in minutes?" "Not ended," Huxley corrected. "They'll be back, and with bigger guns next time. But they've learned something important today." "What's that?" asked the ambassador. Huxley grinned wolfishly. "That humanity doesn't just have shields. We have an arsenal?" In the days that followed, the true scope of the harvester threat became clear. The Pax Galactis shared their full knowledge of the predatory species, their territory, their technology, their relentless expansion. In turn, humanity offered something the Pax had never had before: protection. "It's ironic," Dr. Ramsey remarked to Tezik a week later, as they watched the signing of the Earth-Pax Defense Treaty from the observation gallery. "You came to us offering shields when what you really needed was our swords." "Perhaps that is why our species were destined to meet," Tezik replied thoughtfully. "The Pax has spent millennia developing technologies of creation and connection. You have spent millennia perfecting the art of destruction." "Not destruction," Ellie corrected. "Protection. There's a difference." "Is there?" Tezik asked, genuinely curious. Ellie considered this. "I like to think so. The same impulse that drives us to build weapons also drives us to explore space, to push boundaries, to never accept limitations. It's not that humans love war, it's that we refuse to accept that anything is impossible, including defending what matters to us." On the display before them, human and alien representatives shook hands, tentacles and various other appendages as reporters captured the historic moment. The treaty established Earth as the military protector of the Pax Galactis, while the Pax would share their considerable knowledge of medicine, agriculture, and sustainable energy with humanity. Captain Huxley, now appointed as the first human ambassador to the Pax Galactis, addressed the assembly. "Today marks the beginning of a new chapter for both our civilizations." The harvesters thought they found another easy target. Instead, they found that humanity doesn't just build walls, we build arsenals. And more importantly, we use them to protect not just ourselves, but those who cannot protect themselves. As applause filled the chamber, Tezik turned to Ellie with an expression that somehow conveyed amusement, despite his alien features. "You know," he said, "in all the Pax historical records, there is not a single instance of a species evolving to be simultaneously so creative and so destructive as humans." "What can I say?" Ellie shrugged. "We contain multitudes. One day we're writing poetry and painting masterpieces. The next we're building antimatter bombs and quantum displacement weapons." "A terrifying combination," Tezik observed. "Only if you're on the wrong side," Ellie replied with a grin. "Lucky for you, we've decided we like you." And as the new allies celebrated their victory and partnership, somewhere in the dark between stars, the surviving harvesters fled, carrying with them the unprecedented message that some prey bites back hard. Touch Array's eye.